Welcome to this bite-sized video for the Digital Business Services T Level, where we'll explore the pre-release task for the Data Technician Employer Set project. The Employer Set project consists of a series of tasks designed to assess the 5 assessment objectives shown on the screen. Now, this skills assessment is set and marked by NCFE and is conducted during a 2-week assessment window, which will be available during the summer and autumn terms. The tasks are designed to replicate the real-life industry experience, and to help achieve this, we've used employers and industry experts when developing the ESP. This video will focus on the pre-release task, the initial research that students perform before the 2-week assessment window begins, and this task is not assessed. Now, I'd just like to go through an example timeline for the pre-release material. Please do check the key date schedule for exact dates. The pre-release material can be released to students 3 weeks in advance of the assessment window. The provider can access the material 3 working days prior to issuing to the students. The students will have 2 weeks to complete, but please factor in time for marking and students resubmitting. The pre-release task must be completed before the assessment window opens. The pre-release task will present students with a contextualized scenario. The research is a chance for students to become familiar with the sector in question. They'll have access to the research for subsequent ESP tasks. As this is still submitted as part of their ESP evidence, the pre-release task is not assessed and no marks are awarded for this. The tasks will also include information about what different aspects their research should consider, with those areas remaining very similar from one assessment series to the next. While there's no time limit on the task, there are some requirements that students will have to complete in their research document. And these requirements that the tutors must be checking and confirming. If a student hasn't met the requirements, missing a reference, for example, then they should make any necessarily amendments during the week prior to the assessment, as students can't begin task 1 until their research is confirmed as acceptable. Giving students the opportunity to practice their research skills and making connections to the aims of the brief can be useful for students. You could provide some different context for the different root core elements, such as an organisation changing marketing strategies or a sales method, and so on. You can provide students with some example templates and writing frames when practicing these skills. And it's worth bearing in mind information they might want for subsequent tasks. Familiarise themselves with the sector focus. It may be an area that is fairly neutral, so students will need to be used to having a scenario when they need to look at that sector and highlight trends. It's easy to focus on a sector you're familiar with as your opinion comes into the equation. So choose topics that may not be that popular. Choose topics that appeal to, say, an older generation, so that they need to research more than what they already know. For example, if you're looking for a holiday destination, choose cruises or over 60s holidays. Familiarise with the target audience. This gives them a chance to look at the demographics and identify what the audience likes and how the sector focus can be aligned to that. Use exercises in class to get students thinking about the audiences and how companies attract them. For example, what is the demographics for a game console? Have them then compare something like a PlayStation to a Switch, and how are they marketed differently to match that audience? What is the key focus? What are they looking at targeting a new market segment or developing a new marketing platform? Use case studies. For example, look at some of the larger digital companies and how they've had to adapt technology and demand changes. Look at the shift from video to DVD to streaming, how a business may need to diversify based on technology changes. How do they currently work? How do they sell products that what main products they sell? Identify a product that sells well, and mobile phones could be a good example, and get students to look at how they see their product marketing campaigns. Other areas of research identified. What does the pre-release task tell you to focus on? For example, security legislation, e-commerce, digitalization. This is all the key information they'll need to students will need to get used to reading information and picking out key points. Focus on one key point at a time. So for example, look at a company that has used digitalization to evolve. What systems have they introduced and why? This way students question what they read and try to dig that a little bit deeper. The more used to working through scenarios like this, the better the students will adapt, finding the key focus and the research they will need. It's good practice to expose students to a range of different industries and possible changes an organisation might want to make, giving students the opportunity to practice the research skills and being exposed to different contexts and changes an organisation might want to make in its operation. This would also be a good opportunity to go through tips on organising and structuring their research document, such as using subtitles or headings, which could help students find relevant information quicker. They could also ensure they are accessing information from reliable sources and understanding how to identify when a website is reliable. Finding relevant data which identifies any trends, such as historical data and any patterns that have appeared. The most important aspect, though, is to ensure students are always considering the information in the brief and should regularly refer back to the industry and context given in the brief. We hope you found this useful and have a better understanding of the pre-release task, and do see our other bite-sized videos that form part of the Employer Set project series. Thank you.